was around 18 years old, my friend and I liked to go rent cabins out in the woods to stay in on the weekends. We would go on our little getaways only once or twice every few months. We always had a good time in doing so. However, the story that I'm about to tell you has changed that, and we refuse to go to that campsite to this day. This was about 5 or 6 years ago, and my friend shot me a text. "Hey bro, I just found a great deal on a cabin we can rent out this weekend. Are you down?" I replied to him saying that I would love to go and that it should be really fun. He came over later that night and we packed all of our stuff and planned to leave the next morning at around 9 a.m. because it was a 1 or 2 hour drive. He wasn't joking when he said it was a great deal. The cabin for 3 days was only around $100. Looking back at that now, that should have been a big red flag, but we were young and we wanted to have fun. So sure enough, the next morning we loaded our bags in the back of his truck and set out on our way. We started nearing the woods that the cabin was supposed to be in at around 12 in the afternoon. We turned down the dirt road that was what I assumed to be the driveway, and the driveway itself took 30 or 40 minutes to drive down, and when I arrived at the cabin, I got a really uneasy feeling in my stomach. But I did not want to ruin the trip, so I kept quiet and I got out of his truck. I said something along the lines of, "This should be really fun." The first thing that I noticed about this cabin was that it was 2 stories and literally out in the middle of nowhere. I found that to be really odd because the cabins that we have rented out in the past have all been small, and they were usually around other cabins that other people could rent out as well. We still grabbed our bags out of his truck and headed inside and settled in. At around 8 p.m. that night, we went to the backyard and got a fire going. We made s'mores and had a couple of drinks. We talked, we laughed, we told stories, and overall we had a great time and enjoyed each other's company. This continued for about 3 hours. I noticed that the uneasy feeling that I had in my stomach almost completely disappeared. But then this man appeared out of nowhere at a campsite. Literally out of nowhere. He looked like he was either homeless or really poor. He had like 30 plastic bags around his filthy clothes. He was missing teeth. He had long and ratty hair, and oddly dark eyes. He muttered something. "So you're the 2 folks that are renting out this cabin, huh?" His voice sounded almost like a robot. It was super deep and raspy. Yeah, we just got here today. I'm sorry if we were being too loud. We'll go inside and go to bed now if you'd like," my friend said. I was just sitting there watching in complete shock because there was no other homes or even cabins in the area. So I was really confused about to where this man came from. What he said next sent chills down my spine. "No, you're fine, but I would highly recommend that you get to bed soon. Disturbing crap happens here at this time of night." And almost as quick as he appeared, he turned and walked back into the woods. My friend and I sat there for a good minute or two in dead silence. We put out the fire and headed back inside to go to bed. I couldn't get those words out of my head. Disturbing crap? What did he mean by that? But eventually I dozed off. Then, out of nowhere, something made me jolt awake. I sat there for a second, but it was quiet and really dark in the room. And it didn't make sense because, based on what I was hearing and seeing, there was nothing that should have woken me up like that. So, I lied back down. But then, I heard what woke me up. I heard the sound that brings tears to my eyes whenever I think about it. It was like a howl mixed with a scream. That was the best way I can describe it. I looked out of the window in the room I was sleeping in hopes to find whatever made that hellish sound. The window in my room had the view of the backyard, and I saw that the man that was with us earlier that night at the campfire, he was in the tree. He was just howling and screaming as he pleased. But the most disturbing part about that was he was looking right into my eyes through that window. I turned and I ran into the room where my friend was sleeping to wake him up. But he was already awake with his back against one of the walls, and he looked like he'd just seen a ghost. He told me that he was hearing the screams that the man was making too. I asked him, "What are you doing, man? Let's just leave." But he wouldn't budge. Then we both heard something upstairs. It sounded like footsteps, but whatever it was sounded like it was also walking on all fours. We didn't even want to go look upstairs when we first got here because we knew that we would not be using it. We then heard the footsteps again, along with 3 banging sounds. Right then and there, we bolted out of the room and out the front door to where his truck was. Luckily, he had his keys already in his pocket and he started the truck. The headlights turned on and we looked out the front window. The cabin door was lit up with the lights from the truck, and we saw what assumed to be making those noises from the upstairs. It looked like an oversized lizard, almost like an alligator. But as it sprinted closer, we noticed that it was not a lizard. It was a human, with its arms and legs out to the side, walking on all fours. The howling was still going on while all of this was happening. My friend turned on his engine and pulled around and drove faster than I have ever seen him drive before down that long dirt driveway. We did not even care about the luggage that we left behind. The last thing that we both heard was that man screaming, "Come back."